The grand ballroom of the Cedarwood Resort opens before me like the set of a film I was never meant to appear in. Chandeliers drip crystal fire across marble floors. Wealth moves through the room in hushed, deliberate tones, the particular silence of people who have never had to raise their voices to be heard. I pause in the doorway, the muscle memory of 100 difficult rooms steadying me before I take a single step inside. Callum's hand finds the small of my back. His surgeon's palm, the same hand that has repaired failing hearts for 20 years, presses with quiet, precise reassurance. "Breathe," he murmurs, his voice calibrated to reach only me. "We earned our place here." Beside us, our 7-year-old son Oliver tugs at his bow tie with the focused hostility of someone dismantling a trap. "Mom, this thing is genuinely trying to kill me." I kneel, adjusting the knot with a smile I mean completely. "Just for a little while, buddy. Remember our deal? Good behavior now, swimming pool after." Oliver considers this transaction with the gravity of a small CEO. "Fine, but I want the water slide, not just the pool." "Water slide," I confirm and stand. The reception crowd shifts and parts in the way of crowds at open bars, and that is when the world tilts on its axis. A profile, a laugh. The precise angle of a head tilting backward in amusement, a gesture so embedded in my nervous system that my body responds before my mind has fully processed what my eyes are seeing. 11 years. 11 years since I have seen that gesture, and yet my hands know it instantly. My chest knows it. My stomach drops 6 floors in a single second. The bride turns, champagne flute raised in a toast, and our eyes meet across 40 feet of polished marble and 11 years of carefully constructed silence. Vivienne, my sister. The champagne in my own glass trembles, just slightly. The only visible indication of the earthquake rearranging my interior architecture. I hadn't recognized the name on the invitation. Dr. Marcus Harlow, a prominent cardiologist, a colleague of Callum's, a man I had never met. The invitation had come through the hospital's social network. I had assumed Vivienne was still using our family name, Hartwell. I had not made the connection. I had not known to make the connection. Her gasp cuts through the ambient string quartet like a blade through silk. Around her, heads turn. The music continues its oblivious waltz, but a bubble of absolute silence expands outward from where Vivienne stands, stretching across the room toward me. Behind her, my mother Constance's face undergoes a rapid, involuntary sequence, all color draining away, then flooding back in a crimson wave. My father, Raymond, moves immediately and instinctively, his broad shoulders positioning themselves between Vivienne and me, performing the same protective geometry he has enacted my entire life. "What are you doing here?" Constance hisses. Not quietly enough. 3 couples nearby turn with the carefully disguised curiosity of people trained not to stare. For one unguarded heartbeat, the old shame surges up my throat, hot, reflexive, 21 years old again, standing in the rain outside our house with a suitcase and a bank account notification that made no sense. Homeless and alone and certain that if everyone thought so little of me, perhaps they were right. Callum steps forward. His voice is unhurried and carries the particular authority of someone who regularly makes decisions that determine whether people live or die. My wife is a guest. She's the CEO of Veridian Health Systems. She was personally invited by the groom. The name ripples outward through the cluster of medical professionals nearest to us. I watch it happen, the slight widening of eyes, the leaning in, the whispered confirmations. Veridian Health Systems, a woman in burgundy murmurs to her companion. "That's Nadia Hartwell, the patient monitoring platform. They're in 41 hospitals now. 43, I think, but I say nothing. I simply stand straight, in the Valentino gown I chose this morning without a second thought, in the life I built with my own hands from the ruins of everything this family left me with. The rain soaks through my thin jacket in the memory, Raymond's voice, cold and final as a court ruling. "If you're too ungrateful to contribute to this family, don't come back." The front door slamming with the irreversible sound of a verdict. The scared girl is gone. The woman who stands here now built something from nothing. Who refused to disappear when disappearing was what everyone expected. Dr. Marcus Harlow materializes at Vivienne's side, the groom himself, confusion creasing his kind face as he looks between my sister's frozen expression and my composed one. He turns to my parents with growing bewilderment. "You know the CEO of Veridian?" Then to me, with the brightening recognition of someone connecting long separated wires. "We've been attempting to partner with your company for 8 months. Your post-surgical monitoring algorithm is rewriting recovery protocols across the region." Vivienne attempts a smile. It fractures at the corners like old plaster. Constance and Raymond exchange a rapid glance loaded with something I can only describe as controlled panic. I could make a scene. The power is finally, completely, mine, years of their carefully maintained narrative unraveling in real time in a room full of the people whose opinions they value most. I could tell Marcus how his new bride told everyone I had failed out of university, how they painted me as unstable and irresponsible while quietly redirecting my tuition fund toward Vivienne's education, how I discovered the transfer on a bank statement in my dorm room, my future gone, used to fund my sister's spring break in the Maldives. Instead, I look at my sister across 11 years of silence and I say, simply, "Hello, Vivienne. Congratulations." 2 words. They land like a thunderclap in the space between us. Vivienne flinches as though I've shouted. Oliver looks up at me with the uncomplicated perception of a child. "Mom, is that lady in the white dress your friend?" Marcus's expression sharpens. He looks between Vivienne and me with a doctor's trained eye for symptoms that don't quite fit the diagnosis. "Vivienne," he says carefully. "I thought you said your sister was." He stops. The unfinished sentence hangs in the air between all of us, more devastating for what it doesn't say than for what it does. Vivienne's eyes dart between her new husband and her parents with the rapid, desperate movement of a woman searching for an exit that isn't there. I have walked into enough difficult rooms to know. Sometimes the wisest move is to hold your ground and let the silence do the work. "And this is my brilliant wife," Marcus announces to a cluster of colleagues 20 minutes later, his arm around Vivienne's waist, pride and new husband's certainty radiating from him in equal measure. Stanford medical alumni, managing the family's practice back in Vermont. The Collins, the Hartwell Clinic has been serving their community for over 30 years. I stand 10 feet away. My champagne remains untouched. Vivienne receives the admiration with practiced grace, tilting her head at precisely the angle that catches the light from the chandeliers. A gesture I recognize from childhood, the slight forward lean, the pearl earrings catching brightness, the smile calibrated for maximum warmth. I have seen that expression my entire life, and I have spent 11 years learning to recognize it for what it is: performance. A silver-haired woman in a steel gray pantsuit materializes beside me, her name badge reading Dr. Eleanor Fitch, Massachusetts General. Her eyes travel to my own badge, Veridian Health Systems. Her expression shifts immediately. "You're Nadia Hartwell." It is not quite a question. "Your keynote at the Pacific Medical Summit last month was the most practically useful presentation I've attended in a decade. The predictive complication algorithm, we're piloting it in our cardiac recovery unit. How is the implementation going?" I ask, genuinely. "Readmission rates down 26% in the first quarter." She shakes her head with the expression of someone who has spent 40 years looking for exactly this kind of result. Revolutionary is not an overstatement. Across the room, I hear Vivienne hold court, her voice carrying the polished confidence of someone who has rehearsed these conversations many times. A doctor near her is asking about current trends in platelet therapy protocols. I watch the slight hesitation that crosses my sister's face before she redirects with practiced smoothness. "Well, you know how academic debates evolve," Vivienne says, her laugh pitched a precise half note too high. "Different institutions, different methodologies. We tend to take a more holistic approach at our clinic." The doctor questioning her exchanges a barely perceptible glance with his colleague. "Stanford's program moved away from that particular methodology about 4 years ago. I was surprised to see it still in active use." Something almost imperceptible shifts in Marcus's posture, the slight withdrawal of his arm from Vivienne's waist, the microscopic tightening around his eyes. He is a physician. He notices when the data doesn't match the model. "Raymond," my father's voice behind me, 11 years older. The same commanding register that once sent me scrambling to answer clinic phones after school while Vivienne had piano lessons. I turn to face him, and I notice what time and consequence have done. The expensive suit cannot disguise the fact that the man wearing it has grown smaller somehow. The authority stops at the edge of his own radius now. "You need to leave," he says, stepping close enough that nearby guests cannot hear him clearly. "You're going to ruin this for her." "I was personally invited by the groom," I reply, keeping my voice low and even. "Perhaps you should consider why that makes you uncomfortable." Raymond's face darkens. "Don't play games with me. Coming here, flaunting. Veridian is in 43 hospitals," Callum says beside me, his tone pleasant and absolutely immovable. The Society for Medical Innovation featured Nadia as their cover story last spring. Your daughter is not flaunting anything. She is simply here. Nearby guests are drifting closer with the magnetic pull of a conversation that clearly contains more than its surface layer. Medical professionals recognizing the company name, connecting the dots. Oliver, blessedly immune to subtext, looks up at Raymond with open curiosity. Are you Mommy's dad? She showed me old pictures once. You were standing in front of a red building. Raymond goes absolutely still. The Stanford Medical Campus. Oliver continues helpfully. Mom said she used to walk past it on her way to class. Vivienne has drifted within earshot. I watch the color leave her face in a single, clean withdrawal. You went to Stanford? Marcus asks, the question directed to the general air between us, as if waiting to see who claims it. Class of 2013, I answer quietly. Marcus turns to look at his new wife. The movement is slow, deliberate, the look of a man recalculating everything. An older cardiologist whose conversation with Marcus I had partially overheard earlier steps forward, his face lit with recognition. I didn't realize, Grace, Vivienne, that you knew Nadia Hartwell personally. Her algorithm work on predictive post-surgical complications is some of the most significant research in the field. We've reduced readmission rates at our Chicago facility by 29%. The weight of 11 years of fabricated narrative settles visibly onto my sister's shoulders. I watch it happen, the slight sagging, the fading smile, the eyes darting frantically for an exit from a room she has only just entered. Marcus takes Vivienne's arm with gentle deliberateness and guides her a few feet away. Their whispered exchange is visible even if not audible, his face shifting through confusion to disbelief, her hands gesturing in rapid, pleading movements. You told me you graduated from Stanford Medical, I hear him say, his voice no longer quite under control. I mentioned your name to Professor Caldwell last month. He said he'd never heard of you. It was a specialized program. Stanford Medical doesn't offer those, never has. The crystal chandelier overhead blazes with impartial light, illuminating everything equally. Marcus finds me near the terrace doors 20 minutes later, his expression carrying the particular weight of a man who has made a terrible discovery and cannot yet fully compute its dimensions. He guides me gently toward a small alcove at the edge of the ballroom, 2 chairs, a low table, the muted light of a wall sconce casting everything in softer relief. Thank you for a moment of your time, he begins, straightening his bow tie with fingers that tremble almost imperceptibly. I apologize for, he stops, starts again. She told me you dropped out after a semester, that you couldn't handle the academic pressure and disappeared. The old wound opens for a moment, then closes again. Years of boardroom negotiations have given me the ability to bleed internally without showing it on my face. I graduated summa cum laude, I say simply. Marcus blinks. While working how many jobs? 3. Mornings at a bakery. Evenings at a hospital reception desk. Weekends at a medical billing call center. I pause, letting the arithmetic settle. The billing work is actually where I started developing the ideas behind Veridian. I could see exactly where the system broke down. The inefficiencies were structural, not incidental. Marcus absorbs this with the expression of a man watching a photograph develop, the image becoming clearer with each passing second, the full picture more than he was prepared for. You put yourself through school. Community college first, then state. I couldn't afford Stanford after I discovered my college fund had been, I choose the word carefully, redirected. To Vivienne's education, he finishes. Among other things, her study abroad program in Florence, a car, a year's worth of rent in Burlington when she decided the clinic wasn't the right environment for her. The ballroom behind us blurs in my peripheral vision as the memory surfaces, sitting in my dorm room with a bank statement open on my laptop, the numbers not computing, calling the bank twice because I was certain it was an error. Then calling home, Raymond answering. His voice measured and cold, you weren't Stanford material anyway. Community college is a better fit for your temperament. We made the decision that was best for the family. Best for the family. The hospital where I worked reception, I continue, turning back to the present, that's where I met Callum. He was a resident then. I was hunched over healthcare administration textbooks during my dinner break, running calculations in the margins. He stopped at my desk one night and asked if I understood Kellerman's patient flow theory. And did you? A small smile finds me. I told him it was structurally flawed. That the bottleneck wasn't intake but interdepartmental communication protocols. He pulled up a chair and we talked until my break ended. The memory carries a specific quality of warmth, the particular sweetness of being seen, unexpectedly, by someone whose opinion you have no reason yet to value. He brought coffee the next night, and the night after that. Within 6 months, we had a working prototype of what would become Veridian's core product. Marcus leans forward. Vivienne mentioned you work at a tech company, some kind of office role. Last fiscal quarter, our revenue was just under 480 million. He sits back. The silence between us is not uncomfortable. It is the silence of recalibration. Across the ballroom, I can see Constance and Raymond flanking Vivienne like sentinels, their heads bent together in urgent conference, their eyes cutting toward our alcove every few seconds. Constance's hands move in the frantic gestures of someone managing a crisis. Raymond's jaw is set with the particular rigidity of a man who has been controlling his environment for so long that he has forgotten environments can refuse to cooperate. They'll try to interrupt soon, I observe. Marcus follows my gaze. His expression shifts in a way that tells me the recalibration is nearly complete. I'm beginning to understand that there's an enormous amount about my wife and your family that I don't know. There is, I agree, but most of it is not my story to tell. What I can tell you is this: whatever narrative exists about me and that family, I suggest you weigh it carefully against the available evidence. He looks at me for a long moment. You could have made a scene tonight. I could have. Why didn't you? I consider the question with genuine attention. Because this is your wedding day. And because I stopped needing their version of me to be wrong in order to know that I'm right. Those are two different things, and it took me a long time to understand the difference. Constance materializes at the edge of our alcove with the velocity of a woman who has been waiting for a gap in the conversation. Her social mask is impeccable. Marcus, darling, there's a wonderful colleague of yours from Boston General who is absolutely dying to speak with you. In a moment, Constance. Marcus does not look away from me. Constance's smile tightens by 1 precise millimeter. Her gaze slides past me as though I am furniture. An old sensation, the specific quality of being rendered invisible by the person who is supposed to see you most clearly. She's always been like this, Constance confides to a nearby guest in a carrying voice, light as gossamer and sharp as wire. Always seeking attention. Even as a child, always needing to be the center. Callum's hand rests on my shoulder. A silent anchor. I remain seated, back straight, expression composed. I have weathered far worse than this woman's whispers in far more consequential rooms. The bathroom door swings closed behind me with a soft percussion. For 30 seconds, I stand at the sink running cold water over my wrists, an old trick for staying present when the past comes for you, and then the door opens again and Vivienne is there, mascara wand in hand, her reflection meeting mine in the mirror above the double vanity. Her hands are shaking. Why are you doing this to me? Her voice breaks on the last word, and for a moment she is 17 again, crying after a fight with Raymond that somehow became my responsibility to fix. I turn off the faucet, dry my hands slowly. Doing what exactly? Ruining my wedding, making Marcus question everything. Tears are tracking down through her carefully applied foundation. You were supposed to stay gone, Nadia. That's what was supposed to happen. I turn to face her directly. Not with anger, with the calm of someone who has processed this particular grief so thoroughly it has become something almost like neutrality. I was invited, Vivienne. I'm simply here. You're destroying everything. I haven't said a word about our family to anyone in this room. I keep my voice even, factual. Marcus is asking questions because the answers to his questions don't add up. That's not something I did. That's mathematics. Vivienne slams her mascara onto the marble counter. The sound ricochets off the tile walls. They told everyone you dropped out, that you were irresponsible, that you couldn't be trusted. Her voice drops. I let them. I went along with it. I needed to be the one who succeeded. The confession lands in the space between us with unexpected weight. For a moment, neither of us speaks. I know, I say finally. You know? I've known for a long time. I pick up my clutch from the counter where I set it down. I'm not here for a confrontation, Vivienne. I'm not here to expose anything. I'm here because a colleague of Callum's got married and we were invited. I pause at the door. I hope you find what you're actually looking for. I genuinely do. But I stopped carrying your family's version of me a long time ago. I suggest you consider doing something similar. I walk out of the bathroom. The shift in the ballroom's atmosphere is palpable. A subtle gravitational change, the way a room reorganizes itself around a new center. Colleagues of Callum's drift toward us with genuine curiosity. A hospital administrator presses her card into my hand with the quiet urgency of someone making a connection she has been waiting for. A neurosurgeon engages Callum in an animated discussion about post-operative monitoring that I can hear carrying real excitement from 10 feet away. Marcus stands at my elbow, asking careful, intelligent questions about Viridian's technology. His new bride moves at the periphery of the conversation, present but somehow not inside it, like a word in a sentence that the grammar doesn't quite need. Raymond makes one final approach. He puffs his chest in the old way, the gesture that once made me feel very small and now simply makes me feel something adjacent to sadness. "You can't just walk back into our lives like this," he says. "I'm not walking back into anything." My voice cuts through his bluster with the quiet finality of someone who stopped needing his approval so completely that the absence of it no longer even registers as loss. "I built a life. A real one from nothing, from less than nothing, from what you left me with. I don't need anything from you. I haven't for years." Oliver appears beside me, impatient with the length of adult conversations. "Mom, swimming pool, you promised." I look at my son, this small, luminous person who has no idea that the people around him carry the history they carry, whose most pressing concern is a waterslide, and the uncomplicated love that moves through me is so vastly different from whatever this is that there is almost no comparison. I remove a cream-colored envelope from my clutch. Inside is a Viridian corporate membership card. Access to our professional development network, our mentorship program, our research library. Not money, not rescue, just a door left ajar. I place it on the table near Raymond without explanation. "Thank you," I tell my parents, and watch both their faces rearrange themselves in identical confusion. "Genuinely, you made me build everything myself. That turned out to be the only way I would have built it right." Constance opens her mouth, closes it. For the first time in my memory, she finds no words that fit the situation. Callum falls into step beside me as we move toward the exit. Unhurried, dignified, complete, Oliver skips ahead, already planning his waterslide strategy. In the polished marble of the lobby wall, I catch our reflection passing 3 people, solid and connected and moving in the same direction. Behind us, through the ballroom doors, I can see Marcus watching our departure, then turning back to look at his new bride with questions in his eyes that will not leave him. Some endings are loud. This one is quiet, and that is precisely why it has the weight it does. Sunlight cuts long and specific across the poured concrete floors of my office, 40 stories above the street. The Boston Memorial Partnership proposal covers half my desk, 8 figures, the largest contract Viridian has ever been offered, contingent on nothing except the work itself. My assistant Priya's voice reaches me through the intercom with the particular neutrality she reserves for surprises. "Dr. Marcus Harlow is here. He doesn't have an appointment." I set down my pen. "Send him in." He enters carrying invisible weight, the posture of a man who has not been sleeping, dark crescents beneath his eyes, his suit jacket wrinkled at the elbows in a way that suggests it has been worn and slept in and worn again. He was recently a groom radiating certainty. What stands in my office now is someone in the process of dismantling everything he thought he knew. "Sit down," I say. "Coffee." "Thank you, no." He lowers himself into the chair across from my desk and places both hands flat on his knees, a steadying gesture, the gesture of someone about to say something they have been rehearsing. "I've consulted with a lawyer about annulment proceedings." I wait. "Everything Vivienne told me was fabricated. She never attended Stanford. She never completed a medical degree of any kind. She was working as the front desk coordinator at your parents' clinic." Runs a hand through his hair. "I should have asked more questions. I should have." "You trusted your partner," I say. "That's not a character flaw." His eyes meet mine with something approaching gratitude. "I began investigating after the wedding. Your name appeared repeatedly in the clinic's early records and then disappeared completely around 11 years ago. The gap was striking." He pauses. "I also found evidence of billing irregularities, Medicare codes for procedures that were never performed. It goes back 14 years. The city skyline beyond my window holds its usual indifference. 40 floors below, ordinary life continues at ordinary scale. My parents?" I ask, though I already know. "And Vivienne in the last 3 years. She helped manage the billing after she moved back to Vermont." He meets my eyes. "I've submitted documentation to the appropriate authorities. I want to be transparent with you about that." "Why?" "Because your name may come up in the investigation. Because you were there at the beginning and you left. And because," he hesitates, "because I think you deserve to not be blindsided by your own family's legal situation." The decency of this nearly undoes me. I have not expected it. Will you cooperate with investigators? He asks. I consider the question with the precision I bring to structural analysis, identifying where the load falls, what will hold, what will not. Part of me wants to delete every email about this conversation, instruct my attorneys to cite distance and non-involvement, and let the entire machinery of consequence operate without my fingerprints anywhere near it. Another part of me remembers the patients. Elderly men and women whose Medicare benefits were fraudulently claimed by people they trusted. People who had nothing to do with the politics of the Hartwell family. I'll forward the investigators copies of the clinic's billing records from my time there, I say. I kept copies, a habit developed from years of not trusting that documentation would survive otherwise. I pause. Nothing more than that, just the facts. Marcus stands. His shoulders are fractionally straighter than when he came in. Thank you for seeing me. I'm sorry this is your situation, I tell him. You asked the right questions. Eventually. A small, exhausted ghost of a smile crosses his face. I should have asked them sooner. He reaches the door, then turns back. For what it's worth, your work is extraordinary. The field is better for what you built. After he leaves, I stand at the window for a long time. My phone shows a notification, 3 voicemails from Vivienne, the third this week. The first asked for money. The second contained a threat so transparently desperate it was almost painful. I press delete on the third without listening. The action surprises me with its completeness, not cruelty, not triumph, just the quiet closing of a door that has been left ajar too long. Callum calls as I gather my things. Zuday, he says. Oliver has been lobbying for the Big Cats exhibit since 7 this morning. How quickly can you get here? 20 minutes, I say, and mean it. The garden in July has the particular quality of something that rewards patient attention. I move along the raised beds in the late afternoon light, pinching back spent blooms, reading the lean of leaves for thirst, listening to the specific language that growing things speak if you take the trouble to learn it. Oliver races between the beds in his Batman cape, his current research project being whether cape-assisted speed improves watering efficiency. The data, so far, is inconclusive. He fills his small watering can at the outdoor tap with the tongue-out concentration of a scientist at a critical juncture. Start with the peppers, I call. Those leaves are telling you they need water. He redirects without argument, which is either excellent gardening instinct or the Batman cape providing discipline. I choose to believe the former. Callum appears at the patio door with 3 glasses of lemonade balanced on a tray, making the delivery with the theatrical ceremony that Oliver demands from all beverage service. Thank you, good sir, Oliver intones, accepting his glass with a bow so deep he nearly tips his watering can. Callum's eyes find mine over Oliver's head. We speak in the shorthand of people who have built something real together, with nothing and late nights and the particular stubbornness of 2 people who refuse to let the hard part stop them. This garden, this boy, this life, this is the answer to every question we have ever been asked about whether it was worth it. Davis Hospital Board approved the monitoring implementation today, Callum says, settling into the garden chair beside me. Full network rollout, 12 facilities. Oliver counts on his fingers with enormous concentration. That's, he mouths numbers silently. A lot of sick people getting better faster. Exactly right, I tell him. Thousands of patients, Callum says, catching my eye. The weight of it is not lost on either of us. Every implementation number represents actual human beings in actual hospital beds, scared and hoping the system will not fail them. We built this so it would not. The doorbell rings from inside the house. Callum raises an eyebrow. Component samples from Switzerland, probably. But when he returns, his expression has shifted by a precise, careful degree, the look he wears when he is protecting me from something while waiting to see how I want to handle it. He holds a certified letter at arm's length. The return address is visible from where I stand. Vivienne Collins Harlow. I finish watering the basil before I go inside. The envelope sits on my kitchen counter for 19 minutes while I check Oliver's homework folder and respond to Priya's afternoon email about the Boston Memorial implementation timeline. Callum leans against the doorframe in the particular posture of someone who is present without hovering. When I finally open the envelope, a single sheet of cream-colored stationery slides out. Nadia, the clinic closed last month. Not because of you. Because of everything they did, year after year, before you left and after. The investigators have been very thorough. Marcus filed for annulment. He was right to. I'm not writing to ask you for anything. I know better now than I knew a year ago, or 11 years ago, or 17 years ago. I'm writing because I need to say what I should have said a long time ago. You were never the problem. They told me you were, and I chose to believe it because it was easier than seeing what was actually happening. I'm sorry. Vivienne, Callum doesn't ask me to read it aloud. He waits. She apologized, I say. He nods once slowly. What will you do? I turn to my laptop and open a document. I type for several minutes carefully, with the precision I bring to everything that matters. When I print the page and slide it into a Veridian envelope alongside a Veridian internship application and a note that says only, one door, one chance, the rest is yours, I seal it without rereading. Something appropriate, I tell him. 3 weeks later, I stand at the edge of the American Medical Technology Conference in Chicago, watching my team demonstrate our latest innovation to a crowd of 800 healthcare professionals. The Veridian installation draws a sustained current of interest, people stopping, asking real questions, leaning in over the demonstration tablets with the focused attention of practitioners who recognize something that will change how they work. A movement at my peripheral catches me. Near the education pavilion, in pale blue scrubs with her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, Vivienne stands listening to a speaker discussing entry-level medical administration certification. She holds a notebook. She is taking actual notes. There are no pearl earrings, no performance tilts of the head. She looks smaller than she did at the wedding and also, somehow, more real. Our eyes meet across the exhibition hall. No gasp this time. No ripple of shocked silence. Just two people who share a history looking at each other from their own separate territories. She holds the Veridian internship application I sent her. Her fingers tighten around it when she sees me looking. I offer a single nod. Not forgiveness, exactly. Not reconciliation. Something more honest than either of those, acknowledgement. She exists. I exist. The history between us exists. What comes next, if anything, will have to be built from honest materials. She returns the nod. Her eyes carry something I have not seen there before, the specific, unglamorous look of someone beginning from scratch. We don't approach each other. Some relationships are completed, not continued. The distance between us is not unfriendly. It is simply accurate. That evening, I finalized the paperwork establishing the Hartwell First Generation Medical Scholarship. The name reclaimed from the family mythology that used it to exclude me, redirected toward something it can actually hold. 20 students without family financial support will receive full tuition funding and structured mentorship beginning in the fall. No performance required. No gratitude extracted. Just the door, left open, the way it should always have been. Back home, I kneel in the garden in the late light, pressing seedlings into dark soil. Oliver kneels beside me, his small hands surprisingly careful with the roots. Why do you have to put them so far apart? He asks, watching me space each plant. Some plants don't grow well when they're too close to certain others, I tell him. They need their own space, room for their roots to go deep without tangling. He considers this with genuine attention. Like people. I look at him, this small, luminous person who understands more than he knows he understands. I press a kiss to his temple. Exactly like people. The sun angles long and gold across the yard, the light that comes just before evening when everything it touches looks chosen. Through the kitchen window, Callum moves easily through the space we made together, cooking dinner with the radio on, occasionally singing a few bars of something I can almost hear. I press another seedling into the earth. Cover the roots gently but completely. Some roots you're given, some roots you grow for yourself in ground you chose in a season of your own making. I have learned in 11 years of building from scratch that the second kind take longer, that they require more attention, more intention, more faith in the dark before the growth is visible. But they hold. I have tested them. They hold. Oliver pats the soil around the last seedling with both hands, thorough and satisfied. He looks up at me with dirt on his nose and absolute confidence in the outcome. Done, he announces. Done, I agree. We stand together in the garden as the light goes, and the life we built from nothing settles warm and specific around us, improbable, imperfect, and entirely, irreversibly ours.